Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the new Scooby-Doo reviews. I'm JB, and of course, with me is Millie.
Hi.
We have Dan,
Hi.
and we have Sophie.
Hey.
So today we are going to be reviewing Scooby-Doo and the Loch Ness Monster, of course, as part of our event to promote the 10,000 Heroes campaign. And if you do want to learn more about that, we'll leave it up to Joe to explain it more now.
I had this opportunity to uh, help raise money for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. There are no kid-focused treatments for leukemia. They're receiving adult treatments at reduced doses. And when I heard that, I was just completely shocked that that was the state. And yet the LLS, Leukemia Lymphoma Society, are ready to go with clinical trials for a new treatment that would remove chemotherapy, would take chemotherapy out of the picture and replace it with a pill-based treatment. So you can get rid of chemotherapy, get rid of all of the terrible health outcomes, because what ends up happening is later in life they have side effects from the treatment. The cure ends up, can even end up killing them. Like you can, survive childhood leukemia and then die from chemotherapy and side effects and immune, suppressed immune systems, organ failure, like all these terrible things kind of end up happening later on down the line. And trying to, get past this terrible era where that's the reality to this new technology where they're able to take a genetic marker from the cancer. They're able to identify the genetic makeup of the cancer in the specific person and create a treatment using stem cells that goes back into them through a pill and goes and attacks the cancer instead of using chemotherapy to kind of chemotherapy to kill everything. You're able to do a super targeted, very specific, bespoke treatment for a very specific person. And the science is in, it works. We're just need the funding to go to clinical trials. So I'm a cancer survivor. I had Hodgkin's disease back in 1998, which is a lymphoma. I'm here today. I survived because of clinical trials. And then over those 30 years between that time, the time I got it, there were clinical trials and science and research that was done. People who died with hope that they were in a trial that was going to work, and people who lived that led to it being a really specific treatment that had a very high rate of success. And so I always wanted to find a give back. I always wanted to figure out how I could, pay off that karmic debt of giving back. I never had really figured out a good way to do it. And this opportunity came up to join this program called Visionaries of the Year, which is sort of a sprint to fundraise for the LLS. And I've been sitting around for 6 weeks thinking about it. It's a 10-week program, but I sat around for 6 weeks thinking about it. And they're like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "I'm thinking. I gotta have a vision. I don't know." And the vision finally showed up. I said, "I'll make something called 10,000 Heroes, if I could," because I did the math. I was like, if 10,000 people gave $100, we could raise $1 million. I'm like, that's fantastic. So as I rolled it around and thought about it for the 6 weeks, now I have 4 weeks left in the program. So we're kind of in this sprint to spread awareness about 10,000 Heroes, see if we can use that sort of ticking clock to get people to donate by May 18th. I'm working on getting a telethon together, like a YouTube telethon, where we bring in all these animation folks and we don't I'll do like Jerry Lewis telethon we used to have here in the States every Labor Day. Like I'll do a 24-hour, podcast kind of YouTube telethon, and every hour we'll bring in new animation crews and voice actors. And I don't even know if I can get this together, but I'm trying to get it together by May 11th, which is 2 weeks away. So sometimes just throwing things together, it works, and we'll see if I can pull that off. But I'm going to keep the campaign going. It's starting to resonate. I'm getting some traction. I've also got Mattel on board. They've come on board as corporate partners with me in the program. They don't really do fundraising, but they do give away toys and products to kids who have illnesses, and they have a fabulous program through Play It Forward. That's their charitable arm, and they have a Barbie who's called Brave Barbie, and she's bald. Her hair comes off, and you can see like a kid who's going through chemotherapy can see a Barbie that looks like them and can understand that they're beautiful, no matter what, hair or no hair. And they've given 100,000 of Brave Barbies away over 10 years. And so it's a program that like a lot of people don't even know exists. It's such a great program, and there's such great people running that over at Mattel. So partnering with them has been great. connecting them to the Leukemia Lymphoma Society because they didn't know each other. So I'm just sort of connecting dots where I can, and then reaching out into connections that I have, friends in my network that are on a corporate level, looking for corporate donations on sort of that level, looking for grassroots donations just through my own social network and throughout the animation community, gathering those folks together. I'm sort of just doing everything I can do to within my sphere of influence to try to figure out how I can help, what I can do. So the next 4 weeks are sort of this campaign that we're on, but really I'm going to keep extending and growing out 10,000 heroes. The long tail of it is we're going to go 10,000 heroes. It'll eventually become 100,000 heroes, and then we'll have 1 million heroes. Like letting this thing evolve over time, and we're just in the earliest days of getting that going. But the immediate ask is anybody who hears this message or knows anyone who's been touched by leukemia lymphoma and be willing to donate. Of course, we'll take any donation size, but the math is, if you can donate $100, be one of our 10,000 heroes, it'll help us raise $1 million, and it'll go right to running these clinical trials. And we're going to end chemotherapy for kids with cancer. I mean, there couldn't be a better cause. And it would literally change the world, save millions of kids from this horrible, horrible process, and create a bespoke treatment for leukemia that should have always been here. It existed. Blows my mind that it doesn't, but I'll be damned if I'm going to get off this earth before I don't do everything I can to try to make that happen. So I'm super passionate about it and into it. And the people at LLS are fantastic. They're just such a great group of people. So I'm trying to help them tell this story, find this reach, and raise these funds. Only thing standing between us and the cure is the money. So let's go get the money. Let's figure it out.
Thank you so much for that. I'll leave all the links in the description down below, and there'll be more information in the description as well. So, without further ado, let's get into this review. Oh, look at that, that rhymes. I'm on the ball today. We're on the ball. We're getting weird. We're getting festive.
Okay, I'm gonna start talking before you continue. Okay, so heading straight into the intro on this one, starts with the bagpipes playing. The titles kind of almost like water effect over, like there's the white writing that seems to move with the water in the background. It's brief, but I really like these ones. JB, what about you?
You see, when you compare it to the Pantheon of Joe Sector intros, I think it could be seen as a bit unfair because I'm sure the last deep dive we did of any of these movies from that era, I think it was Goblin King, and that had such elaborate intros with the roller coaster and everything, and the animated art directors. So this was always going to seem to me, at least, like a bit of a not a step back, but a different route, one that built up tension of the movie a bit more, which I think it does well. But maybe my
The
tendencies are more bombastic, perhaps.
the placement of it was also a bit different. Normally you get the cold opening, then the titles, then the mystery machine, whereas here it's straight into them. And I don't mind it. It sets the tone well. I was quite happy.
Yeah.
But I know, like you say, you like water, and it kind of doesn't it do a bit of a deep dive into the lock as well?
It's relaxing. It reminds me of, that time when it was when I was first meeting Millie and I became enamored with this CD, this DVD that your dad had, which was like a fish tank.
Oh,
So much so that he got me a copy, but I was so enamored of that. Anything water. I think I am a descendant of Aquaman. Like, I mean, Jason Momoa, you know what I mean? But oh, I just love the water. So I'm in my happy space.
Dan, what about you? Do you remember the titles of this one? Did you like them?
Yeah, this has actually always been my favorite. The bit with the Warner Brothers logo, when the logo appears and then it just suddenly becomes the water and fades away. That's always been one of my favorite sort of like Warner Brothers logo effects. Um, the opening credits themselves, yeah, they're pretty good. They set the scene. It is weird how I've never really thought of it before. Yeah, it's actually goes the credits then the cold open, but I think it works. I think it really sets the scene. I really like it. It doesn't blow you away. Like the credits is no like catchy song, but it works for the film. I think it really sets it up well.
Perfect. And Sophie?
Yeah, yeah, it sets the scene. I think it creates the atmosphere. It maybe not the best title scene in the world, but it works. As soon as it comes on, I know straight away it's the Loch Ness Monster. So if it does that, yeah, it's good.
Oh, definitely. And I guess kind of something else that I'm sure all of us will have an opinion on, given how much we like Daphne, is one of the first things that we see is the characterization of Shannon. So For me personally, I picked up on straight away. I think they got the color palettes right. I like how they worked the like obviously having the purple, but having the green that you associate with Daphne kind of worked into the tartan as well. The hair matching, even the voice somewhat. I think there's enough about it that kind of easily links the two together. But JB, I know that you are critical of everything Daphne that isn't done as you would like. So does this live up to what you would expect of Daphne's cousin?
I think it does. I think it encapsulates Daphne perfectly, that kind of lineage, and the outfit is on fleek, of course, and Grey's performance is good. Like, obviously, if you're watching it, and I know we said that if there was an American audience that was being presented genuine Scottish accents, maybe it'd be impossible for them to keep up with it. And I completely understand that because even watching through the latter series of Waterloo Road, there were some things that people were saying, and I was like, okay, I don't know what that is. So I understand. So I think it's perfect what they were trying to do.
Sophie, what about you? We know how much you love Daphne. Does her cousin live up to what you would expect?
She is like the perfect relative to Daphne's family. Like, I love her so much. I love watching Scooby-Doo when they do like Daphne's family because I always go back to oh, what's the episode name when they go to Paris and Danica, and Daphne says that all of her family have like the same facial resemblance and they're just like the different versions of each other. And yeah, Shannon is perfect. I love her.
Perfect. And Dan, what about you?
Yeah, no, I really like Daphne's cousin. I like that it is sort of just Daphne with short hair, but I think Grey did a really good job with the voice. And yeah, they got the outfit perfect. I love the idea that the purple and green would be the tartan. I thought it
Mm.
worked really well. And I like that, like, she's a little bit clumsy, like, that's sort of a Blake family tradition. I like that.
Yeah. Okay, and then we move into the reference that there is going to be a monster. So they're all having like a party on a boat. You start to see, is it that the boat rocks initially a little bit too much? And you made a good reference at this point. And you also said that the one bit that they didn't get right is that it would
Oh,
be freezing
yeah.
cold in that log. Like they're all jumping in there like it's, hot summer or something. And JV was like, no, 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 I'm not doing that. No way.
Well, I pooed the bed in the reaction because I just caught this on re-edit. I said there isn't any way in the world that anyone would do that to an English lake. And I was like, thank goodness the majority of our audience is American because I would be rightfully hung, drawn, and quartered. I had to like do a little apology in writing, and I'm like, no, why did I do that? But the point still stands. It's United Kingdom. It would
It
be
makes
cold.
it makes the stakes higher, I guess, so that they're physically in the water with the
Oh yeah,
monster.
it was well done. Well done. It
So
just
the boat gets damaged, pushed up to the shoreline, and then that you meet the creepy old man, which for whatever reason in my initial notes I've put Walmart Leicester.
oh, see, that's just nasty.
It
That
is nasty.
yeah,
I don't know
why?
why I was doing that.
I think it's because he used to be a bad person. Well, I
But
think I
I
think
kind of get that Leicester vibe, like someone that comes in and like, oh, but this is the tale and this is why it's real. Like,
that he didn't have a thing for the Loch Ness monster like Lester did for the years. It's like telling like, was it slippery? Like it wasn't like Lester with the experiments.
no, but I do think it built up that suspense really well. Like, I think this is one that kind of grips you from the start. And that is where the cold open ends, is just with him kind of setting the scene that what if the monster's real? So, I mean, in terms of how cold opens go, I like it. I'm hooked and I'm ready for the rest of the movie. How did you feel at the end of it?
What me?
Yeah.
So I think it's perfect. I feel so bad because this is meant to be our big celebration of the movie, and I do love it. But when we did the reaction, I feel like I was doing it more like I was watching it for the first time, and I was just thinking about ways that I think it would have been better. Now, obviously, Scooby-Doo is meant to be family friendly, meant to be for general audiences. I just thought it would have been so much more potentially interesting if the last shot we got was that violin washing up to shore. Like we didn't get the establishing shot of the characters on the beach and that, tale of the old man like, "Arr, beware, Nessie, you'll be in trouble, landlubbers," and stuff like that. Just end it with that and then cut to the mystery machine and then it's like a relief, like, oh, they did make it. Like we're catching up with the characters now. That was my only thing, and I don't know why I thought it, but I think that would have been better. Hashtag
Okay.
release the JB cut. as my campaign.
You can't cut out the Lester character, JB. What you
I
do?
don't want to cut him out. I just I want to see. I want to see.
Dan, what about you? Did you like the cold open?
Yeah, no, I really like the cold open. I think it really sets things up. I'd never thought about it before, about the characters just jumping into the water, but yeah, there's no way I would ever get into a Scottish loch even at the height of summer. So yeah. But no, I think it works. I think it works for a film called The Loch Ness Monster. I think this is as creepy as it can be for a Scooby-Doo film. I've always loved the way they did the water effect in this film, because
Oh
obviously with it
yeah.
being Loch Ness, the water is sort of a character on its own. I think they did a really good job with that. And yeah, I'd never thought about the old man being like Lester. I think Lester had a bit more character. This old man's just that generic sort of stock character who comes out with sayings. But no, the opening in general, I really liked it. I like the sort of Scottish bagpipe music in the background and everything. I
Mm.
think it works. I think it really sets things up.
Yeah, there's some beautiful like bagpipe like little notes and things throughout. There's one point where it almost reminded me of the New Year song Auld Lang Syne. Like there's just a little bit of how that plays at some point, and I was convinced it was taken from that song. It just sounded so good.
I found out what your song was. You know the yeah, I take the high road. You take.
Yeah.
It is literally just called Lot Lomond.
Oh.
So, yeah, yeah.
And Sophie, what about you? How do you feel about the cold open?
Yeah, I do really like it. I think in terms of the What's New era, the movies, like this is quite an eerie kind of movie in terms of like imagery, which I love, like it's dead on Scooby. Um yeah, I like the boat scene. Yeah, I never thought about jumping into the lock. No, that would not be a good idea. Um, however, going back to the old guy, unpopular opinion, I find him a little bit more creepier than Lester. Like the eyes going on, like he was actually terrifying. I mean, Lester's a good crack, but this guy is terrifying. And I'm not surprised Scooby and Shaggy were scared for their lives because I would be too.
Yeah, I'd read her. I was just thinking, as a lad, if I'm trying to like rizz up lasses, the last thing I'm doing is jumping into freezing cold water. Like, you just set yourself up for failure, though.
Um, I think as well something though that sets the scene really nicely is how stark that contrast is. As soon as we end that scene, it is so bright. And I feel like they got the landscape so nice. Like Sophie, I don't know if you got this as well, but like for me watching it, it was reminding me of when we drove up to Scotland for the Comic-Con to meet Neil Fanning. Like I feel like they got that really good kind of the way that there was the mountains in the background and everything. I think they set the scene on that perfectly. And also the characterizations, I feel like they got Velma kind of less annoying that she was acting like she was actually believed in the Loch Ness and was reading about it and she's not just saying, oh, monsters aren't real and all that sort of stuff. Like I liked how they got the characterizations and I liked the outfits. I love the what's new outfits. And I know I mention it a lot, but Daphne's jacket in this movie, the one that's like slightly see-through, like just how that still highlights her outfit and stuff. I love what they did with the characters, their just the attitudes towards things and how they looked as well. JB, what about you?
You know, I've kind of become engrossed in Loch Ness Monster lore. It's a little bit off topic, but I'll try and like link it in the description and put it on the screen. But just knowing more about the images that like is being kind of recreated in Velma's book, it is just a fascinating thing to follow. Like, I think what Velma's primarily looking at is what's been known as the surgeon's photograph, which I saw how that was debunked, and it was like a prank of someone. They paid off the and this is the first time I'm really paying attention to it. So. For all like I kind of criticize, and I think a lot of people criticize the depiction of El Chupacabra in the Monster of Mexico. I think here, for all you don't get those details, I think it's done enough to encourage me to get more read up about this type of thing. So, if nothing else, I'm happy that they're bringing in like actual, supposed sightings in this, and they're borrowing from iconography. So, yeah, I'm happy with how it's all been done.
No, that's good. And Dan, how did you feel about the characterizations in this, how the characters were done, all that sort of thing?
Yeah, just to add to the scenery, yeah, I think Scotland is so beautiful in general, and I think they really captured it here. Um, yeah, I really liked it. Like you say, I actually quite like Velma in this one, and I remember when I first ever watched this, I was about 10 when this film came out, And I still believed in the Loch Ness Monster. I don't so much now, but back then I did. And it made sense to me that Velma would believe in it. But what I like is she doesn't actually just outright say she believes in it. She's just sort of, I like how she acknowledges that it's a little different. Like with this one, there's so much history and lore, there's so many sightings. She's more open-minded. She's not saying whether she does believe or not. She's just saying, you know what, there has been a lot more sightings for this one. There's a bit more logic. And yeah, no, I like the characterization in general in this one. I think all the characters seem pretty on point. They're very what's new. And yeah, I love the outfits in this one. I know it's similar. I think it's the Lighthouse Keeper episode of What's New. They wear the same clothes. I love Fred's hoodie and like you mentioned, Daphne's sort of see-through jacket. I think it's just so perfect to sort of think, right, we're going into sort of cold, rainy weather, but they still have to look like the gang. They still have to have those colours, and I think they're perfect.
No, I do think they look really good. Speaking of outfits, I've just noticed your t-shirt, by the way. I absolutely love it.
Ah, thank you.
And Sophie, what about you? How do you feel about the characterizations in this?
I think personally it's my favorite iteration of the gang. Like I think they're just perfect. I love when they like start off and they're all the mystery machine and it's just like yeah, like they're them true selves. Val with the Loch Ness Monster book, that was perfect. The way she went about it, not being like, oh, we've got to solve it, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. Like she was just accepting of the Loch Ness Monster. Yeah, I just think from the cold, like the eerie cold opening to like this, like, lovely bubbly, like interaction with the gang. Yeah, it was just a nice contrast, like Marie said. And yeah, it's my favorite iteration of the gang.
Like I said, I think it sets the scene well, but it's a great version of the gang, but also some of the side characters we meet as well. So the gang get to Blake Castle. Shannon starts to reflect on when she saw the Loch Ness at night and how terrifying that was. And then we start to meet some more of the other characters. So we get Professor Pembroke. I think this, I'd say this is one of the movies that sets up some of the side characters the best, other than the Hex Girls, which are absolutely iconic. This, I think, focuses on the side characters more than I think any other movie does. Obviously, we get the return of Del Chilman in another project, which is almost unheard of to see repeat Scooby characters. But also just, I think with Professor Pembroke, they set the scene well. Shannon, they set the scene so well. One thing that kind of always weirded me out was just how at home everybody seems at Blake Castle. Like Shannon's just used to anybody just turning up there. Professor Pembroke seems to know it so well, like she just lives there. Sir Ian just makes himself at home. I'd be a bit like, what are you doing? Like, get out of my house. But yeah, they all just seem so at home there.
Yeah,
But
doesn't like Shannon or not Shannon, the one played by Pembroke, like comes in like she like swivels around on like a magic suitcase.
all the trap, like all the secret doors.
Have arrived.
They're like, I don't like this. I want people out of my house. Yeah, no, it was just a bit weird to me that they're so at home there. But like I said, the characterizations of Sir Ian, Professor Pembroke, Del Chilman, the twins whose names are escaping me, the two brothers. But I just think there are so many good side characters here. Do you have a favorite one? Do you think they're all established really well, JB?
Me, I think it's gonna have to be Shannon though. It's a bit of bias. Although Del is a contender. Del's a contender. He's like a goofy guy. I
It's
love it.
controversial. I don't like Del as much as most people do. I think I can see why I can see why he's liked and why he's returned, and he's a very strong character. But for once I'm more on the Velma team. I like Professor Pembroke.
Oh, okay,
I just
I
think there's
love
the
how
most to her story. But Sophie, you look so alarmed by what I'm saying. I'm gonna go to you next. Do you have a favorite one of the side characters? Do you think they're all established well?
First of all, I love how Velma had a book about Sir Ian and Professor. She just knew them all. Like Shannon was going to introduce them to the gang, and I was like, "No, I've got it here. Like I know who you are. I've got your book." And then Daphne was like, "Do you have a book for every occasion?" And Velma was like, "Of course I do." Like that was brilliant. But apart from Shannon, for this one, Shannon's like scrappy. She's like another member of the gang. Like she's not a side character. She's like above that. But in terms of side characters, it's got to be Del. Like Del's amazing.
And Dan, what
Like
about you?
yeah, they did him dirty a bit in Chill Out, but I liked him the Loch Ness.
Yeah, I think certainly they're doing better here. I will admit, I think this is his best showing. I like you said, perhaps in Chill Out a little bit less, but Dan, what about you?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree that the side characters are all strong in this one. But no, I must say my favorite is actually Professor Pembroke. Like it's one of those characters where if someone mentions side characters, I'll always think of like the Hex Girls or Hot Dog Water or someone like that. But then I always forget whenever I watch this film, I love Professor Pembroke. I love her character, I love her arc, I love the way she is in the story. No, I really like her. So yeah,
Mm.
definitely Team Pembroke.
Yeah, no, it is a well-established character. And so they've all made themselves at home in the castle. They're about to eat dinner, and Shaggy and Scooby get introduced to Haggis.
This is my one regret. I really, because I mentioned this in the reaction. If we had more time, I would have got, because we mused on how bizarre this concoction seemed, and if I was a challenging man, I would love to challenge myself to try some as a challenge in this video, but I can't. I don't have any haggis. But you saw what it was. It was like
Yeah, I'm just getting up
lamb's
what it is
heart,
now. So
pansered, and
have either of you ever tried haggis?
Not brave enough.
Have you tried haggis, Dan?
No, but actually I'm a vegetarian, so no, I've not tried haggis. And that's actually one thing that annoys me in this film. Like, isn't Shaggy a vegetarian in this era? Why would he let himself get to that point of being served haggis? Surely he would let the hosts know in advance that he was a vegetarian. It just seems unnaturally cruel at the gang. Like that Daphne didn't even mention it to her cousin. Oh, by the way, one of the gang is a vegetarian.
You'd think that they'd know. And there's just reading what haggis is comprised of is enough to make me think that being vegetarian is the best way to go. So I read this out when we were, because JB wasn't sure what it was made of when we were doing the reaction to it, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's horrific. So it's meant to be liver, heart, and lungs of a sheep mixed with beef or mutton and then put in a sheep's stomach. It sounds vile.
that's like a recipe that you'll find in like a witch's book, like a hocus pocus book, and that's like and sugar and spice and all things nice, and you get yourself a Powerpuff Girl. Like, what the heck is that?
It sounds so disgusting. I don't know how that was ever something that they were like, let's make that our national
And
dish.
if that is someone's favorite food, I would offer to fight them on it, but I don't think I'd get close. Like, maybe not.
It just sounds like the most revolting thing. Like I can understand that's where Shaggy and Scooby draw the line. I think I'd rather try dog biscuits than that as well. Like just line drawn right there. It sounds horrific. Um, so where were we up to next?
We were up to Scooby Doo on the Loch Ness Monster um review.
So I think this is where, and you can tell me that I'm incorrect. So at this point, the gang all go to their rooms. Shaggy and Scooby obviously didn't have the haggis, so naturally they're starving. So they get up in the middle of the night to try and find the kitchen. And I believe this is when we get the best, I would personally say, the best chase sequence Scooby has ever seen. For this song to be for the purpose of the movie, not a pre-existing song already, how good the setting is, how good the monster is, the fact that they'd not even fully unveiled what the monster looked like till this point as well. Like, to me, this is like hitting the jackpot of everything aligning in the way you want it to. Like, I was watching, or just watching this, I was angry about current Scooby and how the music is missing from it. Like, they used to go to this much effort for a chase sequence. They didn't buy the song, they didn't ask for the rights to the song. This was made for the purpose of this, and it is such a brilliant song as well. I think this will, no matter what happens, go down in history as my favorite ever Scooby chase sequence. JB, do you have one that might rival it? What was your thoughts on it?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't like being asked first all the time because I get very scared. I get very alarmed. I think it is amazing though, and I love how it matches up with what's on the screen, like hanging on, the castle's falling. The only thing, again, it's not even a criticism about the song. It's just I wish it was on like iTunes or Spotify or something. Like, 'cause just listening to this in isolation, like a studio clean version. Yeah, I'd love it.
No, it's brilliant. And Dan, what about you? How did you feel about the chase sequence?
Yeah, no, I love it. I think the song is perfect. I think it works, like the placement in the film. Like this is the first time you get a proper look at the monster. It's perfect. And I love the animation on the creature. I mean, it's obviously like some sort of CGI hybrid, but I think that works. I think that works for it. Like along with how they do the water. I remember watching this for the first time and I was just blown away. And I think this was the perfect sort of chase sequence. to introduce, and it really makes the Loch Ness Monster a threat. Like you can understand why Shaggy and Scooby are so scared.
Mm. And there's just something about the lyrics in the song as well. Like, it's so rare that, I don't know, just for them to reference the relationship between Shaggy and Scooby so much as well. And saying brothers, it's literally about as far as you can get in terms of humanizing Scooby, the lyrics in the song. There is so much about it I love. Sophie, how do you feel about this chase sequence?
It is brilliant. Like Dan said, it's perfect. I just think like the music in this movie, like the songs live in my head rent free. Honestly, they are so good. Um, I just think how it's placed, just following the continuing the story, it's a perfect fit, and it's just the right atmosphere. Just there's nothing to knock it. It's brilliant.
It is. I love the song so I would genuinely put this movie on just for that sequence and turn it off again, just to hear the song. I love it that much. Um, but then the next morning, obviously, Shaggy and Scooby are always the first ones to see the villain. So that kind of after that bit, we're then at I think they've started to go and explore kind of the ground for the games because it's been destroyed after the monster had chased Scooby and Shaggy. We see a balloon of the Loch Ness monster, and I remember quite when I was quite young seeing this. One of my first theories was that that was kind of one of the things, and that was going to be linked to what the Loch Ness was, just them having this giant balloon, which no, obviously it wasn't. But I think at this point, is this when we meet Sirian and he's got no, not Sirian. I think is this when they got on Professor Pembroke's boat? But only four of them can go. So Shaggy and Scooby get to take the Mystery Machine. And Fred's reaction to Shaggy taking the Mystery Machine is absolutely brilliant. The fact that Shaggy crashes it the first time, like you can feel Fred's pain in this, and I absolutely love it. I like how there's so many of these movies that just forget that there's more than just Shaggy and Scooby sometimes. But the fact we get Daphne's cousin, Velma's interest and research and links with Professor Pembroke and everything, and the Fred characterization as well of them taking the Mystery Machine and the anxiety he has surrounding that. I really like it. I just think they build on these characters so well. Anything to add on that point?
No, no, I think they're just all around good, aren't they? Just good.
Yeah.
They're good.
So we get this scene then where Shaggy and Scooby are driving off in the Mystery Machine. They're singing I'll take the high road and you'll take the rocky road while eating Rocky Road ice cream. Absolutely love that. And I love that they use that song as well. My Scottish music teacher used to make us sing all the time, so I absolutely love that. And it's just like a little nod, like they actually did their research on this one. I really like it. We then, as they're driving along, see someone flip the sign that leads them to this really Scooby kind of forest with lots of like creepy stuff and like marshes and bogs and like all this sort of stuff that just kind of you just yeah, it just looks like the scariest place to be. And we had the conversation of who we think flipped that sign because I don't think they ever make it completely
I
clear.
still don't know because you out of everyone, you'd think it would be
We know it wasn't Professor
Pembroke
Pembroke
because of the
because
hand. It's a very thin looking hand,
but she
but it
was
can't be
in
her.
the other one at the time. So it's either got to be Dell or one of the two brothers. And we see the tire tracks afterwards, so it's Dell's van that did it, I think.
Maybe it's like there's like a hint of like a real Loch Ness monster. Maybe there's a real Del Chilman that's out in this movie somewhere, and they did it.
Maybe. And then we flip back to the rest of the gang. They try and catch the Loch Ness monster with the tiny little fishing boat, which is ridiculous. What was it? You kind of made a point on that as well. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah, either they want to hunt it down to kill it, in which case I kind of feel like that's a bit cruel, or they do suspect it's fake and they want to unmask it, but how they would go about unmasking it, I don't know. Like, because it's so weird, because it's shown to be capable on land and in the lake, the log. So to pulling it out of the water to do what with it? I don't know. I don't know. It's a weird one.
It is. And so the two get reunited because the Mystery Machine manages to land on the boat. You have to always appreciate Scooby and just the convenience of some things. That especially, but it lands perfectly on this small boat. Um, I think at that point when they get back, that's when Syrian brings this massive ship that almost that just crashes into the harbour. Um, and I think that's quite an interesting set. So when they go on there, that's obviously like the big technology kind of base. I love the graphic they have, where it shows the lock and you can see the Loch Ness Monster swimming about. It almost reminded me of Spy Kids, when they have like all those miniature animals kind of climbing around on that table. Don't know why that's the reference I got from that. What was the one that you said?
Just Iron Man, like an Iron Man lift up the thing and it's a hologram.
And it also really makes me laugh how the everybody that works for Syrian on that boat looks like they're wearing like Star Trek outfits. It looks like the show that my dad used to watch, like just what they're wearing and stuff. I don't know if anyone else picked up on that, but like that was just something weird that I noticed. Any thoughts on kind of the movie up to this point, the boat that Syrian brings in? One of my kind of key questions is how it actually fit into the lock in the first place.
What?
The big boat.
Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting one. There's meant to be a place where, oh, I'm trying to remember what they said. There's this other type of fish that they think the monster could be. It's in Animal Crossing. I don't know the name, but potentially that way. What's it called? I don't know. It's a big fish. Big fish, little fish, cardboard box. This is a really big one. So I don't know. It's anyone's guess.
Okay, so what happens at that point? So the gang then go underwater in the submarine, and we get to see how all that pans out. You get Fred as the leader again, kind of taking those strong characters, and they're exploring under the water. Um, Dan, I know you said that you really like the graphics in the movie in this. I know Sophie you did as well. How did you feel about this underwater sequence?
Yeah, I thought it was really well done. I thought the animation, especially since this is like a obviously a direct to DVD film, I thought they did really well with it. I always love I love underwater in general. I've always loved Scooby-Doo, like A Clue for Scooby-Doo and stuff like that where they go underwater. But I think especially for this era, because I've said before, if there's one thing I think What's New was sort of a negative about What's New is that sometimes it could be rather flat. Whereas I think at least for this one, I think it really did, like with the water effects and everything in the Loch Ness monster design. I think it really elevated it. It really felt like this wasn't just a long episode. This is like the effects are really what sold it to me as being like worthy of like this film.
And Sophie?
Yeah, like Dan touched upon, like What's News kind of a flat style. Yeah, but rather like animation CGI, it can be quite cringy, but in this case, it works and it's actually pretty good for the movie. It definitely like creates that atmosphere like underwater, which I think, from being underwater to being on land, there's a real good contrast there. Like it's clear, and I think that definitely adds to the movie.
Definitely. And I really like how they try and just add a bit more to it as well, that there is like this underwater cave that they go and explore. They start to go into a bit of Scottish history when they're finding soldiers, things like that. Um, they then have almost like a chase sequence with the Loch Ness Monster while they're in the submarine, which is really cool. How it manages to jump out of the water so high that it gets caught with this magnet, who knows? But again, it's really
Oh,
good.
I thought the magnet attracted it.
No, Fred's like taking the submarine like upright like this, so it jumps out of the water, and then the magnet catches it.
It's
Again,
interesting.
somewhat convenient, but it plays into it, and I really like the movie, so I'm not going to complain. Um, so at that point, they then go back in the mystery machine. They explore where Shaggy and Scooby saw. They see the tire tracks, and we get the reveal of Del Chilman's van as one of the monsters. As that's unveiled, there's been another sighting. So suddenly it says the monster real, and that one wasn't. And then we get to unveil another two monsters, one of which is the two brothers, and one of which is Professor Pembroke. And I can see how if this was done differently, I might think it's a little bit kind of like, I don't know, a bit kind of, I don't know, kind of far-fetched that there's so many, or it kind of misses the mark of it. But how it's done, I really like it. It seems to somehow make sense that there were so many when it's been seen on the land and seen in the water, and for whatever reason, and I don't know how it makes sense to me, it just seems right that there were so many. I feel like if any element had been changed, I'd have been like, I don't like that. Why was there so many? But there was just something about how it was done. Dan, how did you feel about all the unmaskings?
Yeah, I like it. Normally, if things are a bit too convoluted, I'm a bit like, oh, okay. I mean, it's Scooby-Doo. Obviously, you have to take everything with a grain of salt, but sometimes I just think, oh, this is stretching it a bit. But no, I think it really worked in this one. And I think the reveal really worked. I think this is one time where often with Scooby-Doo, like, it seems utterly bizarre when apparently all these criminals are just thinking, you know what, I'll just draw attention to myself. I just dress up as a monster. You just think, why? But in this case, it actually makes sense. Like Professor Pembroke, she's wanting to sort of get people to believe in the Loch Ness Monster. Like the Loch Ness Monster is her life. So it kind of made sense to me, and I like it. It's one of those where having different unmaskings, I think works. I think, like you say, if even just it had been tweaked slightly, maybe it wouldn't have if there'd been a little change. But the way they executed it, I thought was really good. It works for me.
Definitely. And Sophie?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think because all three of them had different reasonings behind it, that definitely added and like, it was definitely interesting. If there's like no different story arcs, it would be a bit wet or like, But yeah, I think they're all quite different. Like you said, like Professor Pembroke, she wanted everyone to know about it. The brothers just doing it for a laugh. Then you got Dal. And I think because it's all so different, then you didn't lose interest or like here we go again, like another villain, like, So yeah, it was done all right, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and JB?
Yeah, it's like I think it's like what we were saying. The fact that all of them are different motives, I think it almost factors into how iconic the Loch Ness Monster is and just how many either supposed sightings there are or, hoaxes. That it's like everyone has a vested interest in faking the Loch Ness Monster for different purposes, and with it being quite a universally agreed upon type of look, if you believe in like the legend, quite easy to do, really. So. I think it actually factors into, just how well regarded the Loch Ness Monster is. So I think it's good. I mean, there's some weird things like Professor Pembroke's treadmill that's like used to operate. I would rather just it being a console and we're meant to believe she just stares and it happens. I think the treadmill's a bit much, but other than that, it's all good.
Oh, and another thing I missed out is when Syrian's kind of people on his boat all try and
Syrian?
uprise. Sir
Oh,
Ian,
it's Syrian. I was
no,
like,
Sir Ian, when all the people that work on his boat, the captains and everything, have that kind of uprising
oh
because they want to
yeah.
catch the monster. I feel like that just plays a different kind of narrative of almost kind of that real life element of there would be people who would kind of try and catch it because there would be such a substantial amount attached to the value of it. So I don't know, it kind of almost stepped outside of the Scooby-Verse for a second, and I think explored some kind of issues that would be attached to something like that. But ultimately, the unmaskings happen. Nobody has a really bad reason for what they've done. For the brothers, it was just kind of to make fun. For Professor Pembroke, it was because she wanted to attract attention. There's no kind of malintent or bad reasoning or anything like that, which I think leads to quite a happy ending. You get to see the games, and then Professor Pembroke shows Siri her pictures. I've never understood how he believes them the second he sees them. Because for me, I'd be like, so you took these while you were doing what you were doing. He's like, oh my gosh, it must be real. And then him and Professor Pembroke and Dal Chilman all have their arms around each other and they're ready to kind of go off into the sunset in search of the Loch Ness Monster. And I want to see that spin-off. Like, I would so watch that. The three of them together, I'm sure that would be interesting. It really would. But I do like how they leave it that the monster in this time could be real. Like, I feel like when you play off something real like that, you can't fully shut it down. And it's something that Warner Brothers have such a bad habit of doing is at the end of this, it can't be real. I love how open they leave this. So, Sophie, how did you feel about how they ended the movie?
Yeah, for being more of like maybe in terms of watching like an eerie movie, like the happy ending was like well deserved. It's just a nice balance throughout the movie. I like the hiding games at the end, and it's just a nice random point. In terms of them leaving that the Loch Ness monster might be still real, and like Velma being content with that theory, I'm very happy with that. Like, I love how she just accepted it, and like we all moved on. I'm like, I can accept it too, Velma. Like, we're good.
I know how like what how far downhill did it have to go? Like look at what a nice ending we got there. There's no mention of swamp gas. She's not about to have a nervous breakdown. Like she's okay. She is okay knowing that it's possible. Whatever happens to her when we get to Curse of the 13th Ghost, Return to Zombie Island, I don't know where it went so wrong or why it needed to happen. Like just how she can be at peace with it here and how she still respects a professor that believes so strongly in a monster. Why can't we have that Velma? That Velma, I like. I could watch her. That's fine. I don't know where we went so what wrong and where it strayed from the path, but to get to what we did was Return to Zombie Island. Something drastically changed. But Dan, what about you? How do you feel about how this movie was ended?
Yeah, no, I really like the way this movie ends. I think it really fits. It's such a like a nice film. It actually is the perfect ending for it. I agree on the Velma points. Like it's nice that you can just sort of accept that, oh, maybe it's real, maybe it's not. Kind of reminds me of like at the end of Zombie Island or Witch's Ghost when the defeat, obviously everything, but they don't have any evidence, and it's just sort of like, yeah, well, we know it. We know what happened. We don't need to prove anything. But no, I liked it. I liked how, there was that last bit where Scooby sees, the Loch Ness monster for real. And yeah, I really loved the trio of Professor Pembroke, Sir Ian, and Del Chilman going off together. I think that's the one problem I had with Chill Out Scooby-Doo when they're just like, oh, what happened? And it's like, oh, Nessie was a no-show. I'm like, oh, you didn't have to ruin that. So I like the idea of them three just going off on their own adventures forever. Or at least like Professor Pembroke and Sir Ian could have joined him looking for the abominable snowman. But no, I liked it. I think it worked perfectly. Like you said, there was no malice. It made sense to me why everyone did what they did. And yeah, for the What's New era, I think it worked perfectly.
Definitely. And JB?
Yeah, I agree with everything. And actually, I completely forgot that that line of dialogue was in there, that Nessie was a no-show and Chill Out. It's almost like they had to retroactively kind of add a bit more doubt in it. It's kind of crazy. But the one thing I do really like is before all of that, which is in like the ceremony where Shannon's like, I want to like and present a great member of the Blake family, and it's Daphne, and it just feels like that's a really good moment because a lot of other ones would just find a way to make it some type of parade in Scooby-Doo's honor, which is cute, but it's like in Aloha Scooby-Doo, you've got Daphne joining the contest, Scooby wins it, Daphne goes to Japan to become like a martial art warrior, Scooby's the one that becomes the samurai, and it's like so many times Scooby takes the spotlight from Daphne, but in this movie she gets some spotlight, so I'm happy.
So with that being said, JB, for you, is this movie a smash or a pass?
Oh, it's gonna be a big, big smash. This is gonna be one of the smashiest smash that was ever smashed. So mm, that's good. Good. What about you, Melanie?
I have to agree with you. I can't find an element of the movie that I don't like. It is tied for first place for me. This and Witch's Ghost. Scooby never got better than that for me. Like they are my top two definitively, and I stand by it. That Brothers Forever chase song. No Scooby scene, I think tops that for me. Like I love that so so much. I think this like I said, this and Witch's Ghost, if I had to get rid of every other Scooby movie to keep these two, I would 100% do it. I love them that much. But Sophie, what about you? For you, is this movie a smash or a pass?
A big smash. It is a really good movie. Like it is my top five favorite Scooby movies. I just think the execution, for what's new era, like the balance is just perfect. Like such an awesome movie.
Perfect. And Dan, what about you? Is it a smash or a pass?
Oh no, this is definitely a smash. I really love this film. I still remember watching it for the first time when it came on TV, and I've loved it ever since. I've seen it multiple times. I think I'm going to rewatch it. pretty soon because talking about it's really got me in the mood for it. I think it works perfectly. I love the mystery. I love the animation. I love the side characters. I always have a soft spot for the What's New era films, but this one is one of my favorites. But no, it's definitely a smash. It can't be anything other than that.
Oh, that is amazing. So it's like a full house, really. I think that's absolutely amazing. It's so great to see, and oh, I'm very happy. I think this has been a very good review. I'm very
I
thankful
will
that the
say,
internet didn't give up the ghost.
just to promote another video you did, when you did your tier list of Scooby-Doo movies, you did the Loch Ness mo Monster movie dirty.
Yeah,
Wasn't it a lot lower than it should have been?
well, that was a retired series. That was a retired series. I will say, I think this is one of the better recordings we've done in this dynamic recently. I think this has definitely been the happiest I've been in a recording for a while. So I'm in my zone now. I'm almost like, yes, let's review another one. Let's review all of them. You're like Fred at the end of Trick or Treat. I'm like, let's do good reviews, bad reviews, scary reviews. Keep on going. Haha, and happy Halloween, everybody. It's like I'm at a, well, I can't say that, but I'm very, very happy. But of course, the end goal should not be forgotten about. We're promoting the 10,000 Heroes campaign. If 10,000 people donate $100, then that's $1 million for this amazing cause. Again, all of that is going to be linked in the description down below. Really, really dedicated to that. And of course, there is going to be an interview with the legendary Mr. Joe Sictor. I don't know when this video is coming out. This is either coming out on the Thursday or the Friday. So either tomorrow or tomorrow. It'll be
The
on
day
the
after
channel,
tomorrow.
so we shall see. No, tomorrow to the power two. That's the vibe. That is the vibe.
So on Saturday this week, that will be premiering.
Yeah. So for everybody watching, Dan, where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at DanFaz94.
Oh, and Sophie.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Scooby for Life.
That is fantastic, and you can find me nowhere. But I'll leave everything in the description down below. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.